From a distance, Lake Natron presents an almost painterly deception, a vast canvas of crimson and white shimmering under the African sun. Its seemingly serene surface, however, conceals a caustic truth, a legacy of the nearby volcano, Ol Doinyo Lengai. This mountain of God is unique on Earth, erupting a rare natrocarbonatite lava that washes sodium carbonate and other minerals into the shallow basin. This unique geology gifts the water a pH often exceeding 10, as alkaline as ammonia, and temperatures that can reach 60 degrees Celsius. The result is a hypersaline brew lethal to most life, yet it is precisely this hostility that fosters a spectacle. Salt-loving microorganisms bloom in the heat, staining the vast shallows in surreal hues, while the high soda content perfectly preserves the bodies of any unfortunate animals that perish within it. Yet, this is not a monument to death, but to tenacity. For millions of lesser flamingos, these lethal waters are a sanctuary, the caustic flats providing the world's most secure breeding ground, a profound paradox where life's most fragile beginnings are cradled by one of nature's harshest extremes. Talkeetna exists at a confluence, a point of meeting not just for people, but for powerful, elemental forces. The Dena'ina Athabascans aptly named this place for its defining feature, the convergence of three immense, glacier-fed rivers, the Susitna, the Chulitna, and the Talkeetna. This strategic position wasn't lost on early 20th century planners, who established the town in 1916 as a district headquarters for the monumental task of constructing the Alaska Railroad. For decades, it was a rugged outpost, a supply hub for gold prospectors and trappers venturing into the interior. Today, that essential character of a base camp endures, though the objective has shifted from the riches within the earth to the summit in the heavens. It is from these quiet streets and rustic airstrips that the world's most determined mountaineers begin their ascent of Denali. Talkeetna, therefore, occupies a unique space in the Alaskan story. A town born of industrial ambition, yet one that remains fundamentally defined by the untamable wilderness it serves. The defining feature of Luanda is not a monument built by human hands, but this elegant sweep of sand known as the Ilha do Cabo. It presents as an island, a protective barrier against the Atlantic swell, yet it is in fact a peninsula, a sandspit painstakingly forged over millennia by the relentless northward push of the Benguela Current, which deposits sediment along the coast. For over 400 years, this natural breakwater has created the calm, deep anchorage that is Luanda Bay, the very reason a city exists here at all. It was this geographic serendipity that drew Portuguese navigators in the 16th century, allowing a colonial capital to take root and flourish where the open ocean would have forbidden it. Today, the formidable fort of São Miguel still watches from its hilltop, a stone-faced witness to the centuries, while a modern skyline of steel and glass rises in its reflection across the water. Luanda's story is written here, a constant, quiet dialogue between the persistent sea that built its cradle and the ambitious city now mirrored on its surface. The first thing that strikes you about Canaima Lagoon is not the thunder of its waterfalls, but the unusual color of its water, a deep, tea-like red. This rich hue is a direct message from the past, a natural infusion of tannins from millennia of decaying plant life, combined with minerals leached from the Guiana Shield, some of the oldest exposed rock on our planet, dating back nearly 2 billion years. 7 distinct waterfalls, among them Hacha and Golondrina, pour this ancient water into the lagoon, their mists rising to meet the sheer faces of the distant Tepuis. For the local Pemon people, who have navigated these channels in their dugout Kuriaras for generations, this is not just a landscape, it is a living chronicle. Here, the line between geology and biology, between the inanimate and the sacred, simply dissolves. You're not just looking at a lagoon, you're witnessing a slow, patient conversation between rock and water that began long before the first stirrings of complex life. Perched atop a formidable ridge overlooking the Cecina Valley, Volterra presents a paradox of permanence and fragility, a history etched not in decades, but in millennia. It has stood for over 3,000 years, since its time as Velathri, one of the 12 powerful city-states of the Etruscan League. Yet its very foundation is a source of existential threat. The city is built upon a precarious geology of friable sand and clay, a composition that gives rise to the dramatic and destructive phenomenon known as the Baals. These immense crumbling cliffs are the result of relentless erosion, a slow-motion cataclysm that has, over the centuries, consumed ancient churches and even parts of the 7th century BC Etruscan necropolis. What we see today is a city that has learned to live on the edge, its enduring stone a defiant testament against the inexorable pull of the earth, a place defined as much by the precious alabaster it carves from its hills as by the very ground that threatens to take it all away. To truly perceive Ibiza, one must look beyond its modern reputation and down to the very ground itself. The island's distinctive red soil, a deep crimson blush against the brilliant Mediterranean light, holds an ancient secret. Its color comes not from iron, as many assume, but from the tannins of pine needles that have carpeted these hills for millennia. It was the Carthaginians, arriving over 2,600 years ago, who first recognized the island's spirit, naming it Ibosim, after their multifaceted god of dance and protection, Bes. They also began the systematic planting of the Aleppo pines that would eventually lead the Greeks to call this archipelago the Pityousish, or pine-clad, islands. This deep geological and historical legacy, the rich, fragrant earth, and the ever-present scent of resin, forms the island's foundational truth. It is a silent testament, a quiet but persistent identity woven into the fabric of the landscape, enduring long before the first beat of a kick drum ever echoed through its valleys. Perugia presents a profound paradox, a city that soars with authority above the Umbrian plain while concealing its most dramatic story deep within its own foundations. To truly understand its complex soul, one must descend. Following a failed rebellion over a salt tax in the mid-16th century, Pope Paul III sought to permanently break the will of the city's ruling families. His solution was the Rocca Paolina, a colossal fortress that was less a construction and more an act of architectural damnation. He systematically razed an entire medieval quarter, the homes and churches of his rivals, and built his symbol of papal dominance directly upon the ruins. Today, a network of public escalators cuts a surreal path through this buried city, carrying you past ghostly stone vaults and shadowy lanes that once teemed with life. It is a journey through a conquered past, a visceral reminder that here, history is not something you merely observe. It is the very ground, layered and unyielding, upon which the present is so precariously built. The name itself, Las Galeras, hints at a past far removed from tranquil shores. It means the galleys, a somber reference to two slave ships that were wrecked upon this coast in the 16th century. This remote outpost, perched on the easternmost tip of the Samana Peninsula, has long been a place where land meets the formidable will of the Atlantic. But the dramatic character of its coastline owes less to human history and more to a deep geological past. For millions of years, this entire peninsula was a separate island, and its slow collision with the larger landmass of Hispaniola thrust the Earth upwards into a formidable cordillera. The result is a landscape of profound contrasts, nowhere more evident than at Playa Fronton, where a sheer 900-foot limestone wall, a fossilized coral reef, plunges directly into the turquoise water. It is a powerful reminder that this seemingly placid paradise was forged by immense geological pressure and etched by the indelible marks of history. To set foot in Canaima is to walk upon one of the planet's most ancient terrestrial surfaces, the Guiana Shield, a Precambrian geological formation dating back nearly 2 billion years. The iconic, sheer-sided mesas that dominate this landscape, the Pemon people call them Tepui, or House of the Gods, are not mountains in the traditional sense, born of violent tectonic uplift. Instead, they are the profoundly eroded remnants of a colossal sandstone plateau that once blanketed this entire region. For hundreds of millions of years, wind and water have been the patient, relentless sculptors, carving away the surrounding land to leave these immense, isolated tablelands standing in defiance of time. Each summit, shrouded in its own unique microclimate of mist and cloud, is a veritable island in the sky. This profound isolation has turned them into evolutionary laboratories, where over 1/3 of the vascular plant species are entirely endemic, found nowhere else on Earth. Canaima is therefore more than a place of staggering beauty. It is a landscape that tells the story of deep time, a living museum preserving a chapter of planetary history in stone and life. The essence of Ubud is encoded within its very name, a whisper from the distant past. It derives from the Balinese word ubad, meaning medicine, a founding principle established in the 8th century by the Javanese priest Arsi Markandeya. He was drawn to this specific location by a powerful energy emanating from the confluence of 2 sacred rivers, a place where he discovered an abundance of plants with healing properties. What we see today, this verdant tapestry of impossibly steep ravines and cascading rice paddies meticulously carved into the landscape, is not merely scenery. It is a living testament to that ancient wisdom, a complex system designed to harness the life-giving properties of the land. The town's modern identity as a global center for wellness and spiritual rejuvenation is, therefore, not a recent invention, but the natural continuation of a 1,200-year-old dialogue between humanity and an Earth that is seen, above all, as a source of profound healing. To truly understand Caracas, one must first look up. The Great Green Wall of El Avila, a formidable section of the Venezuelan coastal range, rises abruptly from the valley floor, separating this sprawling metropolis from the Caribbean Sea, just 10 miles away as the frigate bird flies. It was this dramatic topography that captivated the great naturalist Alexander von Humboldt over 200 years ago. He recognized it as the architect of the city's famed eternal spring, a natural barrier that traps moisture and tempers the tropical heat. But this mountain is more than a climatic engine. For the Caraqueño, it is a compass, a constant silent observer whose moods shift with the passing clouds. It is both a guardian and a cage, a verdant sanctuary whose sheer rock faces have witnessed the city's entire story unfold, from its colonial founding to its oil-fueled zenith and its complex present. It is the city's anchor, a geological truth in a place of shifting fortunes. To gaze across Lake Toba is to witness a tranquility that belies its origin. This is not a lake in the conventional sense, but the water-filled caldera of a supervolcano, the site of the largest known explosive eruption in the last 25 million years. Some 74,000 years ago, the Toba supereruption ejected nearly 3,000 cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the atmosphere, triggering a global volcanic winter that may have pushed early humanity to the very brink of extinction. The vast body of water before us, over 100 kilometers long and up to 500 meters deep, is the direct consequence of the Earth's crust collapsing into the emptied magma chamber below. And Samosir Island, the landmass at its heart, is no ordinary island. It is a resurgent dome, slowly pushed upwards by immense geological pressure in the millennia following the cataclysm. It is a profound paradox, a landscape of serene, almost meditative beauty, born from a planetary convulsion of unimaginable violence, a cradle for life forged in the crucible of near annihilation. To navigate Los Heidices is to enter a labyrinth sculpted by time itself, a maze of emerald hummocks rising sheer from the San Lorenzo Bay. This is a classic karst topography, the dramatic result of millennia of tropical rainfall dissolving a vast limestone plateau. This same elemental force hollowed out a network of over 100 caves, which became both refuge and cathedral for the indigenous Taíno people. Here, their ancient pictographs and petroglyphs, faces and figures etched in stone, offer a silent testament to a world that existed 500 years before the arrival of Columbus. The very name of the park, derived from the Taino word for hilly land, anchors this place in its human past, reminding us that every geological wonder we see was once a home, a sanctuary, or a sacred space. It is a landscape that serves as a living chronicle, where deep time and human memory are inextricably woven together. Girona's most enduring image is a vibrant tapestry of ochre, terracotta, and pastel facades hanging precariously over the river Onyar. Yet this famous waterfront is an illusion of sorts. These are not purpose-built river houses, but the rear walls of buildings constructed directly into the city's ancient eastern fortifications. For over 2,000 years, this city has commanded the confluence of 4 rivers, a strategic prize besieged more than 25 times. What we see today from the Pont de Pedra is a vertical timeline, Roman foundations buried deep, the formidable medieval wall forming the spine, and the domestic architecture of subsequent centuries clinging to it like a living organism. This fusion of military necessity and civilian life explains Girona's unique character. It is a city where the ramparts did not become ruins, but were instead absorbed, painted, and transformed into the very homes that now define its skyline, a testament to resilience written in stone and plaster. To gaze upon the Langsha is to see a landscape sculpted by patience, but its origins are not of volcanic fire or alpine uplift. These rolling hills are the floor of an ancient sea, raised from the depths a mere 5 million years ago during the Pliocene epoch. What lies beneath the neat rows of Nebbiolo is a specific terroir known as the Tortonian and Serravallian soils, layers of blue-gray, calcareous marl, clay, and sand, each retaining water and minerals in a unique balance. This is the geological secret behind the profound complexity of Barolo and Barbaresco. The vines are literally drinking from a prehistoric seabed. Every contour of the land, every subtle variation in the wine from one slope to the next, is a direct dialogue with this marine past. It's a history not written in stone monuments, but one that can be tasted, a liquid archive of a time when this entire valley lay submerged beneath a forgotten ocean. In an age defined by glacial retreat, the Taku has long been a profound outlier, a river of ice so immense its momentum seemed unstoppable. It is the thickest and deepest known alpine glacier on Earth, plunging to a depth of nearly 1 mile and containing a volume of ice that for most of the 20th century allowed it to defy a warming world. While its neighbors shrank, the Taku advanced, its colossal weight carving the valley floor and pushing a moraine forward like a shield. This advance, however, was a story of stored momentum, not of immunity. Since approximately 2018, scientists have observed a critical change. The Titan has begun to thin. This subtle yet momentous shift offers a sobering benchmark, transforming the glacier from a symbol of geological persistence into a final, powerful witness to a climate reaching its tipping point, where even the mightiest natural engines begin to slow. To understand Surakarta is to understand a kingdom cleaved in two. The year was 1755, and the Treaty of Gyantari formally partitioned the once mighty Mataram Sultanate, birthing this city alongside its more famous royal rival, Yogyakarta. This division was not merely a line on a map, it was a schism in the very soul of Javanese high culture, embedding a quiet, persistent rivalry into the island's heart. Today, that legacy is etched into the city's serene layout, anchored by its two distinct royal courts, the Grand Kraton Surakarta Hadiningrat and the elegant Mangkunagaran Palace. While its counterpart may command more of the world's attention, Surakarta, or Solo, as it's affectionately known, cultivates a more subtle and introspective grace. It is a city where history is not just remembered in monuments. It is a living, breathing presence, a daily performance of a heritage meticulously preserved since that fateful division over 260 years ago. The stark beauty of Lanzarote is not an ancient geological memory, but the direct result of a cataclysm that unfolded within recorded history. For 6 relentless years, from 1730 to 1736, a series of over 100 volcanoes tore through the island's heart, burying entire villages and smothering nearly a third of its surface under a sea of basalt. This was not a singular event, but a prolonged, earth-shaping ordeal that created the Timanfaya National Park we see today. What was left was this sublime, almost lunar canvas, the Malpais, or Badlands, a landscape of solidified lava flows and volcanic craters frozen in time. It's a powerful reminder that the ground beneath our feet is not static, but a dynamic stage for immense natural forces, leaving behind a seemingly sterile world that would, against all odds, become a testament not only to nature's formidable power, but to the profound resilience and creativity of its people. To walk through Munich's Altstadt is to feel a city that is both grandly ducal and profoundly humble, a paradox embedded in its very name. München, meaning by the monks, harks back to a simple Benedictine settlement that predated its official founding in the year 1158. It was here, on the banks of the Isar River, that Henry the Lion established a toll bridge, displacing the monks but inadvertently cementing their legacy into the city's identity. This monastic origin is more than a historical footnote. It is the quiet, foundational note beneath the city's opulent Baroque symphony. It explains the almost sacred reverence for tradition, from the craftsmanship in its workshops to the brewing purity laws that have been observed for over 500 years. In this metropolis, the spiritual and the secular have never been truly separate. They are simply two sides of a character forged in the 12th century, a place where worldly power grew from monastic soil. Leipzig's identity is forged not just in concert halls, but in the quiet courage that reshaped a continent. It was here, within the unassuming walls of the Nikolaikirche, that the seeds of Germany's peaceful revolution were sown. Beginning in the early 1980s, weekly peace prayers offered a rare sanctuary for dissent, a space for dialogue under the watchful eye of the Stasi. By October of 1989, these quiet gatherings had spilled onto the streets, transforming into the pivotal Monday demonstrations. Tens of thousands, and eventually hundreds of thousands, of unarmed citizens faced down the regime, their chanted slogan, "Wir sind das Volk," "We are the people," echoing a power that no wall could contain. This legacy of intellectual bravery and civic action is the city's true pulse, a current that flows from the era of Bach and Goethe to the present day, reminding us that the most seismic shifts in history often begin with the simple, determined act of gathering. Here, where the monolithic granite of the coast mountains plunges into the Pacific, the landscape speaks a language of raw power. The very name, Squamish, is a legacy of the Skywexwu Seven-Mesh people, translating to Mother of the Wind, a literal description of the powerful thermal winds that funnel daily down the Howe Sound, shaping both the ecosystem and a way of life. Dominating this vista is the Stawamus Chief, a 700-meter dome of granodiorite. This is not a mountain in the traditional sense, but the cooled, hardened core of a magma chamber over 10 million years old, its sheer faces scoured and polished by the colossal force of retreating glaciers. In Squamish, the story of the Earth is not just written in ancient stone. It is carried on the very air you breathe, a constant reminder of the deep time and elemental forces that have converged to forge this singular meeting point of land, sea, and sky. The silhouette of Zhansa Shans is iconic, But to see it merely as a picturesque postcard is to miss its revolutionary heart. This landscape, carved by the river Zaan, was the world's first major industrial zone, a powerhouse that literally fueled the Dutch Golden Age. At its zenith in the 17th and 18th centuries, over 600 windmills crowded these banks, their blades turning in a relentless symphony of commerce. They were not just grinding grain, they were sawing Scandinavian timber for the ships of the Dutch East India Company, pulverizing exotic spices from across the globe, pressing oil from seeds, and grinding pigments for the era's master painters. The very air here would have been thick, not with nostalgia, but with the scent of raw production, of fresh-cut lumber, of mustard and cocoa, of linseed oil and wet earth. Each turn of these colossal wooden machines was a turn of a page in economic history, a testament to a nation that didn't just harness the wind, but engineered it to build an empire. To truly understand La Romana, one must look past the modern marina to its working port, the industrial heart that has pumped life into this coast for over a century. The city's story is inextricably linked to the Central Romana Corporation, an agro-industrial and tourism company founded in 1912. It didn't just build a sugar mill on the banks of the Rio Chavon. In many ways, it built the city itself, shaping the economy and the very landscape. From above, you can see its legacy written across the earth in the vast geometric seas of sugarcane that stretch to the horizon, feeding one of the largest refineries on the planet. For generations, the rhythm of local life has been dictated by the harvest, the zafra, a powerful heritage that coexists, sometimes unseen, alongside the manicured perfection of the nearby resorts. La Romana, therefore, reveals a compelling duality, a city born from the sweet, raw power of a single crop, where the grist of industry continues to underwrite the gloss of a Caribbean paradise. To truly comprehend the soul of Marrakech is to first understand its color, a deep, pervasive, terracotta blush that earns it the enduring name, the Red City. This hue is not a superficial coat of paint, but the city's very essence, a profound geological inheritance. The city's ancient, formidable ramparts and the intimate, labyrinthine walls of its traditional riads are constructed from tabia, a traditional rammed earth mixture utilizing the region's distinctive red clay. This soil, incredibly rich in iron oxide, is the patient gift of millennia, washed down from the imposing high Atlas Mountains that form the city's dramatic backdrop. This foundational practice, established with visionary pragmatism by the Almoravids upon the city's founding around the year 1062, has indelibly defined its character ever since. These earthen walls possess a life of their own. They breathe, absorbing the intense, unwavering African sun to create a unique thermal rhythm that cools shaded interiors, then slowly releasing that warmth into the desert night. This process casts a monolithic glow that shifts in a constant subtle dance with the light. From soft rose at dawn, to fiery ochre at noon, to a saturated sacred crimson at dusk. It is a powerful architectural statement, a city not simply built upon the land, but literally formed from the very earth it commands, an organic extension of its landscape, and a living testament to 1,000 years of sustainable harmony with its environment. To truly comprehend the scale of the Tongass, one must first think in geological time, abandoning human-centric clocks for the slow, inexorable pulse of eons. This is a world fundamentally sculpted by ice, a living remnant of the last glacial maximum when colossal glaciers, rivers of frozen time, ground their way to the sea. Its nearly 17 million acres are draped across the 1,000 islands of the Alexander Archipelago, a magnificent, fractured coastline carved into deep, silent fjords by the immense weight of those retreating glaciers. The land itself is a raw expression of this power, where mountains plunge directly into the dark, cold waters of the Pacific. This dramatic, water-laced topography created the perfect conditions for the planet's largest intact temperate rainforest. It is a cathedral of colossal Sitka spruce and western hemlock, where a thick carpet of moss muffles every footstep and a verdant understory thrives in the filtered light. Some individual trees have stood as silent witnesses for over 800 years, their rings recording centuries of storm and sun. Every channel, inlet, and glaciated valley is a testament to that immense, world-shaping power. The forest that has since reclaimed the scoured bedrock is therefore not merely a collection of ancient trees. It is a living chronicle of resilience, a story of succession and survival written in bark and stone, a direct and breathing link to the deep time that forged this extraordinary landscape.